You've been passed over, and now you're wondering what they didn't see in you. But before you spiral out of control, ask yourself this. If the hiring manager studied the way that you approached your own career, would they trust you to lead theirs? Now, this is the question that we're going to be exploring today. Not to beat yourself up, but to position yourself powerfully. What's next? Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst, the podcast with Shenita B. I am your host. This is where we discuss the thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change. Now, if you've ever felt overlooked, then this episode is for you. Because today I'm going to be sharing 5 impactful strategies that you can make when you've been passed over for a promotion. Steps that help you to move from sidelined to strategic. And if this resonates with you, take a minute to give me a follow as well as a review, because this will help other people to find the podcast. And your feedback absolutely makes a difference. So, you're at a crossroads and you need some guidance, and you have one of two choices. You can internalize the rejection and you can become bitter, or you could look for an opportunity to get some good insight and feedback and become better. And I would say that better is what you want to work toward and not allow the rejection to define who you are and the moves that you make from here on out, because that's what's going to be extremely important. And as we approach this type of topic, I think it's also important to remember that these are people that we're talking about. You're a human being with your own thoughts and feelings that have been filtered through your own life's experiences, and so are the people who are responsible for making the hiring decisions. I think it's important to understand that a lot of managers and leaders are completely uncomfortable providing constructive feedback to people, especially when they deem that feedback to be unfavorable or negative. So when you go into this process of thinking through what do I need to do? What should they do? So on and so forth. You want to consider the fact that some of these topics can be very sensitive and they're not easy to approach because people are just kind of left out in the cold because they're really unsure as to how some of that feedback might be received. I'm not making excuses for people. I'm just kind of telling you something that I think will help you as you're thinking through what happened and how you can approach it. Because again, that's one of those things that is really important to understand. And the fact that someone is a manager or even in a leadership position does not necessarily mean that they really understand how to communicate effectively and to do so with a level of compassion and care and consideration that might be due the situation. Um, so like I mentioned, there's an opportunity here. You're at this crossroads. Maybe you've just been recently passed over for a promotion, or maybe you're waiting for a decision to be made about the next step in your career, and you're just not really sure where this is going to land. Even if you might be confident that the interview went great, there's still a chance that maybe, just maybe, that you will not be selected as the candidate. Well, at any rate, you could potentially be at a crossroads if you're not already there. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation today, because it's kind of a big deal because of the impact that it has on us and the trajectory that we move toward in the aftermath of said decisions. So let's talk about the second path, and the second path being using this as an opportunity to gain and glean something good that you can use to kind of help shape what you're going to do next, because that's really what we're trying to do here. Um, and I really don't want to reduce it down to, okay, maybe you've just heard the news and it was not favorable. You're not really clear on the why behind the unfavorable decision. You just know that this is kind of where you are. And there's this there's this binary decision that you can make. You can stay or you can go. And it's just as simple as that. And I'm here to tell you that it's not as simple as that. You can stay or you can go, but if you only leave it there and you're not thinking through and giving some serious consideration as to what things might have been done differently, what actions can you take to make this better, regardless of whether you stay or go, then you're bound to repeat the same scenario. And it will come, and it might not be with the same type of position. It could be within another department or even in another company. But you're going to take that same baggage with you. And if you don't really take a look at what's happening on the inside of that, you're going to find yourself repeating those same mistakes, and you're going to be frustrated over and over. And I really don't want you to be frustrated. It's hard enough to try to make a way for yourself and to try to gain some ground. You definitely don't want to limit yourself by putting yourself at a disadvantage. So that's why I wanted to get into this, because most of us may never really know the why behind management makes the type of decisions that they do. But what we can do is we can approach it with the mindset of being open to learning and understanding if there are areas of improvement that we can hone in on. Okay, that's really what this is about. So when we're looking at trying to understand the why, there's really nothing that's off limits. Okay, everything about you um, has been put on Front Street. Basically, people can see you, or they at least see what you present to them. And if you present something to them that even remotely makes them think or second guess a decision to hire you in a higher level position, then it could work against you. And you don't want that to happen. Because, truth be told, people are judging you and they're labeling you from day one. You come in and you start asking questions, or maybe you don't ask questions, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're too quiet, and people don't have an appreciation for being too quiet. Because sometimes, if you're too quiet, people don't even notice that you're there. And part of what you're trying to do is to get enough attention to indicate that you're interested, but not draw so much attention to yourself to where you're trying to suck the life out of the room. And believe me, I know that that sounds like those are two extreme ends, but sometimes, with as with many things, there can be fine lines between those things, and so you have to figure out how to balance between the two. And part of the reason why I say that people are constantly judging and labeling you even from day one is because from the very start of your career, when you walk into a new organization or a new department or a new position, whatever the case is, people are looking and assessing. They're trying to understand, how do you fit in with the team? How do you fit in with the manager? How do you fit in with people in other departments within the organization? How do you handle stress? How do you handle frustration? They're looking at all of these things. And if you do not have anything that you can show them that sets you apart from some of your other colleagues, then it's going to cause some issues for you in the long term, because you're going to vie for positions that might become available, but they're already going to be looking through their Rolodex, their mental Rolodex, as to how you will fit into these new positions. And so it may not work out well for you. So that's one of the reasons why I say that. And quite frankly, this is one of the things I think that we don't talk about as we're becoming new employees, especially if you're just entering the workplace after college. You might not even realize how impactful your reputation is and visibility within the organization. Even if you're a new employee, who's just getting started in their career. You want to develop a good reputation, someone who is a go getter, who is motivated, who shows initiative. That's just a few things. But you also want to be visible. You want to be someone who asks questions, who is not afraid to have the conversations with not only their leader, but their leader's leader, if that becomes necessary. You want to try to develop those relationships and have meaningful interactions with others, so that they know that you take your work seriously and that you're interested in doing a good job, not just with your core duties, but that you're interested in helping to move the organization's mission forward. And so that's why opening with that question the way that I did is pretty important, because again, if the hiring manager were to look a little more closely at how you're handling your own career, they're going to be wondering, well, if this is how they're handling their career, well, what kind of advice would they give to me? Or even, how would they lead in this new position that we have available? If they can't check a few boxes, it's already working against you. So here are some of the tips. I want us to get into the tips that I'm going to share with you, because I think that these are really important, simply because we've all been there. And The reason how you ended up here, uh, I think they are kind of important because I've spoken to people and I've experienced it myself where we've had these kind of setbacks, and it definitely does not feel good. I have a colleague, I'll call her Jessica. Jessica had been out of the office for quite some time, for an extended period of time, to take care of some personal business, and came back to work and realized she didn't have the relationship with her boss that she really thought that she needed. And she felt like she had lost some time there. And Jessica is also a bit of a quiet person. She's a bit of a wallflower. So she thinks that that might have worked against her as well. And I can tell you, in actuality, yeah, the being on leave might not have been as big of a factor as being the wallflower, the silent wallflower, just kind of in the background blending in and not being there and making herself known. All of these things can work against you. And regardless of whether you were out of the office or you've been quiet or any other issues that have come up, issues or concerns, I guess, you find yourself here. Now you need to know, what is it that I can do to help me out going forward? Okay, well, here we go. Number one, okay, now in the aftermath of being passed over, it's okay to be disappointed. But what you want to do is you want to check those emotions at the door. You want to keep them in check. And by that, you do not want to wear them on your sleeve. You don't want to walk around with an attitude at work. You don't want to appear as if you're upset and angry about being passed over, because not only will that impact your conversations with your leader, but it definitely will bleed over into your interactions with your colleagues and maybe even the person who's been hired to take on that position. You don't want to set that type of precedence, because if you already had a label that you think worked unfavorably against you, well, this is not going to make it any better. So my number one advice is to leave that at the door and work to gain control over your behavior, even in the midst of such disappointment. Number two, do a self audit. Now, this is always important because part of this has to do with just being self aware. You have to understand who you are and recognize some of your areas of strength and your areas of weakness or improvement, right? So be completely and brutally honest with yourself about this. I cannot overstate this enough, because you don't want to make your next moves based on uh, faulty intel, and that being the one that you give to yourself. Because I can tell you, self deception is the worst deception. If you think that you know how to do some things and in actuality you don't, you have already set yourself 10 steps back, and it is going to be very difficult for you to recover from that if you're not completely honest with yourself. So, ask yourself questions like, what relationships need attention? Do I need to fill in some gaps? What is it that I could or could not have done, or am I doing? What is it that I am doing that could hinder me or that did hinder me from getting this job? Okay, so like I said, just be brutally honest with yourself. Uh, those are the best conversations that you can have, because now you can have some uh if once you have those true discovery moments, now you can have some true breakthroughs on how you take action to minimize those things going forward. Number three, initiate the conversation and be strategic. You want to talk to the hiring manager, especially if this is someone to whom you report and this position is within your department. You want to show some initiative and have that conversation and let them know, I am really interested in finding out what you think about our interview and some things that you think that I can work on to help me move forward, because this is what I would like to do. This is where I see myself in 12 months or 24 months. You want to be very clear and you want to show them that you are motivated to move forward. Now, this again might be uncomfortable because, again, it's not easy for people to provide feedback, especially if they think that that feedback will not be received well. So I think that if you show some initiative and you show that you are willing and open to having a conversation about it, it will help to clear the air and it will set the stage for moving forward, which is, again, what you want to do. Number four, you want to rebuild your visibility with intention. You want to let people know that even in the aftermath of not getting this job, that you are here to do your job and to do it well, not only with your current responsibilities, but in how you interact with projects that may come forward in the future, because you want people to know that, hey, I'm available to learn new things. I am here to work and to help move things in the direction where they need to go. So focus on that. And if this might entail you volunteering for project. Now, of course, as with all things, you have to exercise some discernment when you're offering yourself and making yourself available for some projects, because this might require that you talk this through with your manager, your leader, before they give the approval for something like that. But once you've had those conversations and you know that it's all good, go for it. That's exactly what you should do. And then number 5, redefine what success looks like for you. I think part of this requires you to ask yourself, do you really want to do this type of work? Is this the type of job or that's going to get me to where I need to go? Uh, because again, in the aftermath of such a major disappointment, because again, it doesn't feel good when people do not give you the opportunity that you think that you should get, because you're qualified, you've proven yourself, you've done the work, and it just did not work out. But this is the perfect time for you to redefine that for yourself. Success means different things to different people. For some people, it comes in a title. For others, it comes with how their family structure is set up. For others, it maybe has something to do with the money that they have in the bank or how they utilize their time and volunteering. All of those things matter, but you have to be the one who says that this is where I want to be and this will bring me joy. This will make me happy. No one else can define that for you. And maybe there's something good that has actually come from you not getting that job. And how do I know that? Because I've lived it. A lot of people have lived it. Sometimes this is a wake up call to say, well, maybe it's time for you to do something different. Maybe this is not the position for you. And of course, there are always things that are occurring in the background that you are just not privy to, and you may never be privy to it. So that's none of your concern. You can only deal with the things that are directly under your purview and that you can actually impact. So define what success looks like for yourself and don't let someone else dictate to you how far you can go within your own career. You set the stage, you set the career trajectory. And so now this is an opportunity for you to decide, okay, well, this didn't work out. Maybe I can try this other opportunity. And as a part of these 5 tips, I don't want to I don't want to understate the importance of asking for development opportunities with your manager, because depending on the type of organization where you work, this could be that there are many opportunities available and it could be that there are none. If you work in an environment where you work in a large environment where they do offer some type of leadership development skills, some coaching, and some mentoring, I would say that you definitely want to take advantage of that. And if they do not, if you're working for an organization that does not have the resources to provide that, well, then it might be time for you to start looking externally to see what kind of resources are available and what will it cost me. Because what I can tell you is it's extremely advisable that you would find someone to mentor you or to coach you through uh, this stage in your career. And it's going to be extremely helpful to have someone who is objective to provide some insight and some information to you to help you move along the career path that you have chosen for yourself. It can be very meaningful. And just having someone who is there to support you and to listen to you and to help you think through some things, it's pretty invaluable. And I think that you'll find it extremely helpful. And I hope that you'll stay tuned because I'm actually working to build out a coaching program because I think that it's that important because all of us need someone to help walk with us as we're going through different stages and phases of life. And so I just want you to keep that in mind as we're continuing on this crossroads and catalyst path. So I'm going to close with underscoring that you don't need a title to control your career. It is completely up to you. If you don't have a leadership title right now, you have the title of CEO of your life. You can make the decisions that no one else can. Recognize that you have the ability to do a lot of things. And maybe you need to sharpen some skills. Maybe you need to take some courses. Maybe you need to have a few more interactions or a little more in depth experience to do one thing over another. But recognize that you have the decision making authority over your life to decide how you move around and do those things. Because it's all about you being able to make those decisions and you being empowered to do those things. And I hope that this has been helpful to you, um, partly because, and this is near and dear to my heart, simply because I've been there and I've been there more than once, actually. It was many years apart, but I definitely know what it's like to not even get the opportunity to apply for a job or to get an interview for a job, rather. And so we'll probably have a conversation about that as well, because I think that speaks to how some organizations run their HR departments when they have internal candidates who are applying for jobs. And either they don't know how to do those things and make sure that they're in contact with the internal candidates, or they've just completely ignored the importance of informing internal candidates on the process, what it should look like, and so on. But I wouldn't be here if it weren't for some of the things that have occurred within my career, specifically being passed over for a promotion. It makes you think a little more um, intrinsically, and I say intrinsically, it makes you think a little more reflectively, and that is extremely important. And then you really start to see, hey, well, maybe that was not something that I really wanted to do, or maybe I would like to do it in a different way, and maybe you have to do that at another organization, and that's okay. So whether or not you decide to stay or go is completely up to you, but I want you to make that decision being informed that there are things that you should do when you decide whether or not you're going to stay. Okay. And it's not going to just be, well, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else, because you're still there. You're going to be in that other organization. And if you're doing things the same way at this next place that you're doing today, you're probably going to encounter the same situations. So take your power and make good decisions. Think through what you would like to do, think through those tips. And if nothing else, just have a conversation, a relaxed conversation with the hiring manager, and see where that conversation takes you. I think that you will be pleasantly surprised. This may not have been your moment, but the next moment is coming. So be prepared. And if this episode has been helpful to you, give me a like, a follow, and share it with someone else who might be going through similar circumstances who could benefit from listening. Be wise, be thoughtful, be strategic. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are, catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters. So make it count. Talk to you next week.